Water, water everywhere, and all the boards did shrink. Water, water everywhere, nor any drop to drink.
It's no secret that water is essential for all life on Earth to exist, especially humans. As humans, our genetic makeup is somewhere around 60% water, meaning that the human body by volume contains more water than all of planet Earth, which only its surface is covered by about 71%. To us tiny humans, it may seem like such a large amount of water is infinite. However, as human life has expanded globally and innovation has shaped the Earth to its necessity, the drinking water supply is no longer what it once was.
Today, we will dive deep into the topic of water, answering questions we've all been wondering. Is tap water really safe to drink? What's the harm with drinking out of plastic water bottles? And what's the best and most affordable home filtration system? Stay tuned to learn where you can see what contaminants are in your city water. This is our argument for why you should make an emotional support water bottle your newest accessory.
So grab yourself a big glass of water and a towel because we may get a little damp on this water episode.
Welcome to Too Many Cooks in the Kitchen. I'm Janelle, the original cook in this duo.
And I'm Lauren, the one who adds a little extra sass and spice.
Which basically means we don't always agree.
But we always have something delicious to share with each other.
Two voices, one mission.
Better food, better health.
So grab a fork and hit subscribe.
Because mealtime's always more fun with too many cooks in the kitchen.
Okay, so Lauren, this is an exciting topic to dig into for sure, especially now since we're in a heat wave pretty much across the whole globe at this point, it seems like. And water is essential, especially when it's this hot out for people to drink. And so many people, though, I think maybe don't drink as much water as they could, partially because they don't have it easily accessibly available if they aren't like drinking tap water and they have to go and buy the bottled water, and maybe they don't have the financial resources to do that, or you're out traveling somewhere and you're just didn't think to bring your water bottle with you if you're like freaked out about plastics and all that. So I think this is really important. So the first thing I think we should talk about is tap water safe to drink?
Well, it really depends on where you are in the world or in the United States. In some places, the tap water is safer to drink than others. And in some places, it's not safe to drink at all, like in Flint, Michigan, for example.
Yes, absolutely. For sure, important to understand what's in your tap water. But I would say, regardless of the big newsworthy things of a few locations, in general, our tap water is safe to drink. I think often it gets kind of blown out of proportion and promoted potentially also by the bottled water companies who stand to benefit from the fact that they want to make sure that you understand that your tap water is not. I understand there are places where you have old pipes and things of that nature. But often if you're in an area where it's a fairly new development and it's a new town or not, 100 years old in an old city, or even like New York City, I would venture to say that tap water is pretty okay for you. And there's no regulation on bottled water. So you may be drinking bottled water, but could be actually coming out of tap.
Most often, and even if a water bottle says spring water, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's actually coming from a spring. I think a lot of the time, bottled water is actually just tap water. So you're not actually getting anything different than you would from your tap necessarily. I mean, obviously, it depends on where the water is bottled and where you live. Generally, tap water is recognized as safe. However, that does not mean that it is free of contaminants. So even though it is safe to drink, you're not going to die if you drink it. It's potable. That doesn't mean that you're not necessarily absorbing contaminants that are in the water. I mean, there's so much pollution these days, and from water runoff from farms and different things. And I mean, it's not a secret that most water that you get from a tap does have some kind of something in it.
Well, I would say water everywhere
Yeah.
now has a forever chemical in it. They have even found it like in Antarctica, where clearly no one is there's
Using
no
PFAS.
factory up there. PFAS and PFOA and many of the other what they call their class of chemical called forever chemicals. The reason why they call them forever chemicals is actually because there are currently no microbes. So microbes in the soil when like it rains and the water goes down through the ground and it ends up into our groundwater where we can either have a spring or an artesian, like if you have a well, or pretty much where all of our water originates from that we drink that we especially call like really safe water. It goes through the soil and it gets cleaned by the microbes that are there, the minerals that are within the soil, because it goes and travels really long way down, and the microbes actually break down the nutrients or the whatever chemical that's in there into its actual molecular, down to the molecular level. So forever chemicals, however, like your Teflon, your Scotch Guard, things like that, that are meant to be a flame retardant or help you keep your eggs from sticking on a pan, those actually are man-made chemicals made in such a way to be so strong to do whatever job they were designed to do.
Originally, Teflon was created as a product to seal the outside of tanks. It was not intended to be used on pots and pans and for food to be touching it. So anyways.
Right. And it's one of those things like there are so many chemicals that are initially started to like for the military and then they go, hey, what else can we use it for? I know. Like, ammonium nitrate, which we use to fertilize, originally was for making bombs and actually still is used for making bombs.
In the microwave is not, obviously it's not a chemical, but it was invented for military use and now it is in literally every home pretty much, in modern society.
Yeah, it's ubiquitous as like so many people.
Yeah.
I mean, even Tang was invented by the military for NASA for the astronauts. So we are totally digressing. However, like the forever chemicals is the big problem is there are no microbes that actually currently exist to break it down. So that's the problem, is that's why they're forever chemicals. And so they are now in the air and they come down in the form of rainfall. And then that goes in and stays in that water and follows it through all the way. So pretty much every source of water has it in it. However, you can filter it out because it gets attracted to carbon quite well. And because of that, if you run water through like a carbon filter, like they have an Brita filter or many other different filtrations, they'll have a carbon filter in there, and that actually will attract and capture that and keep it in that. Of course, then you dispose of it and then, it ends up back cycling out. But the hope is actually that it'll stay trapped to that carbon long enough for microbes to evolve to figure out how to break it down. And then but that may take 100 years. That's basically the science behind that, how water is really truly filtered in the natural world. And then man has tried to replicate that in like a water treatment plant. But maybe the pace at which they need to do it is a lot faster.
Yeah, a lot faster considering it's in pretty much all the drinking water.
Yeah, unless you're lucky enough. Like, I'm fortunate. I have a well. So like, and when we bought.
That doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't PFAS in your water. Have you ever had it tested?
Oh, yeah, we've had it tested. Often they don't test for that. I would imagine there is a very much a trace amount of it, but very likely not too much due to the fact that it's clay. The water moves very, very slow through it. But I do know that anywhere that is near an airport is going to have PFAS and PFOA in their water. And anyone who's getting a water supply from an area of a reservoir that is near an airport, and that is because the de-icing chemical, it's made of some of the forever chemicals, is one of the ingredients in it that allows it so you can fly and not fall out of the sky when you're flying in the winter. So
it's nice, but
yeah, I know. Makes
clean drinking water, I would argue, is more important, but I guess less immediately life-threatening.
Yes, but the good thing is we can generally filter a lot of that out. So because of that, we have come up with solutions in being able to get most of these things out. As long as you're not just, going and dipping a hose into a space and not filtering it and pulling the water out, then obviously that would maybe have some of that in it.
Yes. And there is a website where you can go to type in your own zip code and find out what your city water has for contaminants or where it's coming from. The website is called EWG's Tap Water Database, and we'll provide a link in the show notes. And I've gone ahead and put in the zip code of where I live, and I'm gonna read you guys a little bit of what is in the water. Well, I don't drink tap water, thankfully. I have a reverse osmosis system at home, and we'll get a little bit into that. But if I was drinking the tap water, this is what I would be drinking. So it says that the source is groundwater. The data is from 2014 to 2023, so it's a little bit behind, but I'm sure it's still fairly accurate. It says there's 21 contaminants in the water. Legal does not necessarily equal safe. Getting a passing grade from the federal government does not mean the water meets the latest health guidelines. Legal limits for contaminants in tap water have not been updated in almost 20 years. That's crazy. The best way to ensure clean tap water is to keep pollution out of source water in the first place.
Which we have already discussed is pretty darn hard.
Yeah.
So being said, yeah, like obviously like you have your water source, because I've got it pulled up here too. Is from groundwater. And in Florida, it's likely most of it is from groundwater. However, a lot of Florida is limestone. That is very porous versus like where I am, like our groundwater would go through a lot of clay, which has really, really small micropores. So it takes a long time for the water to get through it easily. Whereas where you are, the water will go through that very quickly.
It's limestone, sand, like it's just going to go
it's
right
like
through.
the beach, a wave goes and then boom, gone. But if you have a clay puddle, like it's sitting there for quite a while. Yeah, exactly. So soil is super important depending, but it looks like you have some pretty gnarly stuff here.
Yeah, there's so it gives the contaminants detected, it lists all of them. It also lists their potential effects, and then it gives the legal limit that is supposed to be in water if there is a limit for contaminant, and then it tells you what's the 10x to 9.
That's the amount times the their health guidelines versus the legal limit. So what it's saying is how many times the legal limit or their limit.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So
they're coming up with a lower limit than the actual legal limit.
Yeah.
However, this is where my science hat's going to say, this is a website that has carbon filters linked on the bottom.
Yeah,
so
they want to
I would take this with a grain of salt. It is likely that we need to redo our water, our Clean Water Act. That's been totally just destroyed with the current administration. So for sure, we need to research this and come up with new legal limits that are far healthier. However, this has been, the last time it was updated is 20 years ago. There's some of these chemicals that didn't exist 20 years ago, especially that perfluorohexane sulfonate, PFX, the actual acronym, which is harder almost to say, but perfluorohexane.
That's in some of mine. That's in the Stewart drinking water. That's lovely.
Yes. So actually, all three of those
1,000 times over the legal limit, or supposedly.
Any of the perfluorohexanes or perfluoro whatever, that's a PFAS, a PFOA, and those forever chemicals. So all of those are forever chemicals. Some of the haloacetic acid, those two different types. And the chromium. Chromium is kind of a natural one. We actually take vitamins that have chromium in them. So it's not it's just anything, even water will kill you in too high of a dose. So don't freak out if you put this in and you're like, oh my God. Just know that, hey, if you're worried about these things, get yourself a filter.
Yes. And as far as filters go, activated carbon filters are very good, and it will filter out majority of the bad stuff.
Absolutely.
And on this website, it also, if you scroll down past the all the contaminants in your water, it'll tell you which filter gets rid of which things.
Mhm.
And the reverse osmosis filter, there is controversy about them, but they do take out the most amount of contaminants of any filter. But the only
Right,
thing with reverse osmosis water is it's also, because it's filtering out everything, it's also filtering out beneficial minerals. And so there's
right.
controversy around whether or not that having demineralized water is good for the body or bad for the body. And personally, I drink reverse osmosis all day, every day generally, and I don't feel, like there's a difference really. So, it's a lot of speculation. So it's really just whatever is going to work best for you in your situation. Activated carbon filters are generally more affordable. Reverse osmosis filters can be a lot more expensive, depending. They don't have to be.
Right, right.
But the convenience of a reverse osmosis filter is that you can hook it up, a lot of them, you can hook up directly to your faucet. So it's coming right from your tap water, but it's filtering out your tap water before you drink it. And
Yeah,
then
and there's one option that we actually use in our lab at work. We have, and it has an RO filter, it has a deionizer, as well as a carbon and a sediment. So it basically will filter out all of them. I think it was less than $300, and then you buy the cartridges and you can actually install it just under your sink. It's very
Mhm.
easy to install. Certainly one, and I'll link to that one. That's a fairly affordable one that you can, like, buy in many different locations online as well as from the website. So, there are options for filtering the water, but it's really important to understand, like, even if you don't filter your water and the only thing you can do is tap water, it's still better to have
And drinking
water
soda.
than no water or
Yeah.
soda.
Yeah.
So, like, let's take this with a grain of salt of, like, water is essential, and some of these chemicals in general, when they are doing, like, it causes cancer kind of thing, a lot of it is that things that cause cancer need lots of other things to happen as well in order for that to actually happen. So it's not like it is the only thing, and it causes immediate cancer and boom, you're toast. It's like, well, you have to maybe carry the genetic makeup for the thing that will cause it. I mean, it's kind of like people that smoke. People smoke 100 years and don't get lung cancer, and other people that only smoked a little bit and they get lung cancer. It's kind of to understand that, there are many, many, many things that are out there. Like they say, grilled meat going to cause cancer. But, I'm pretty sure yesterday there were a lot of grills going on the 4th of July, including our own.
And actually, that's just technically, it's not the grill itself, it's the creosote buildup from the whatever.
Right, exactly. It's the char which makes it so tasty, but yet also the thing. So I think we've certainly, like, kind of really covered the tap water, and we talked
Mhm,
about the reverse osmosis. But, like, here's a question though. Like, okay, we say we got to drink a lot of water.
mhm.
How much is the amount we should drink?
Well, I mean, it really depends on your size and how much physical activity you're doing, how hot it is, but I think the standard amount that they tell you all adults need, I think it's what, like 8 glasses of water a day or something like that.
I would say as a minimum,
Yeah, a minimum
eight
for sure.
8-ounce glasses. So this right here, this glass right here is a 16-ounce glass. So technically 4 of
Or
these, this
that's
amount.
still, like, that's not enough.
Well, but that's like, if you just
If
drink,
you were
I always
sitting
think,
all day, then that
well,
would be okay, probably.
right. But also, like, I'll have my mushroom coffee in the morning and then I have my regular coffee in the morning.
Mhm.
There is liquid in that. Now,
Yeah,
yes, caffeine can be a diuretic, meaning that it's going to
it's
maybe draw
dehydrating.
some water and moisture out of you, but it won't draw more than, like, what's in the
Mhm. The
the
beverage that
liquid.
you're drinking.
Right. So
Yeah.
even if you drink a caffeinated beverage, but I would say, like, limiting that to coffee, or when you start getting into soda and things like that with all the sugar and everything, your
Mhm.
body just has
It's
so much more work to have to do. It's just not worth it to, like, quench your thirst with a soda. Yes, have soda, limit it in moderation, all that. Same with beer, any alcoholic beverage, wine, whatever. Like, that should not be your go-to for, like, quenching a thirst. Water should be the thing to have quenched your thirst. But if you're adding in other things, so let's say you're eating watermelon, that's super high in water, or some grapes or things like that. That does have water in it, and that actually can be part of the amount of water you are actually consuming in a day. But if you're eating just a lot of dry things, you're not eating a lot of fresh vegetables that have a lot of water in it, it is
And a lot of
really
salt.
important.
Very
Oh,
salty.
yeah. Salt can and also draw out and
A small amount of the proper amount of salt can also help to hydrate your body. So it's, there's an amount that is beneficial, but then past that, then, you're not getting that benefit anymore.
Well, it's also super important. Like Gatorade actually got created, or like for the electrolytes, is because if you are sweating like crazy and you're drinking a lot of water, you actually
you're not putting as much in as you're
losing salts too. And you're losing those minerals that your body needs. So all electrolytes are is really just kind of the minerals that you need in your body. Some salts, because your body works by this kind of gradient of salt in one area and less salt in another area, and it allows things to move throughout your body. I'm not going to get into the science of that. You'll go back to your, whatever that would be, 9th grade science book and look at that. Yeah, exactly. However, it's super important to have that, because if not, then your synapses, literally your muscles, and your heart is a muscle, will begin to not operate as efficiently as it needs to. So that is why some people have actually consumed so much water that they have either gone in a coma or died. So if you drink 2 gallons of water in a day, and you do not consume electrolytes along with that, and you don't drink all that water all at once, you can have some very dire consequences. So
basically you'll drown from the inside.
Pretty much your body, your muscles.
Your cells can't absorb the amount of water that you're putting in, so it's just gonna it just doesn't. It's
actually an imbalance in the electrolytes, and so your heart stops because it can't function, because the electrolytes of potassium is one of the electrolytes, and that potassium helps your muscles to fire. It communicates with your nerve endings and all that stuff to allow it to function on in, out, pump the heart, use the muscle, contract and release very fast. And that's how your heart pumps. Well, if you have so much water in you that you actually unbalance your amount of potassium and the other salts used to actually create that signal, you will have a heart attack. So there was actually a radio show 20 years ago that they did a challenge of this, who could drink the most water. This one contestant drank 2 gallons of water and then died. The radio show was no longer on.
Okay, I remember vaguely you telling me this as a child.
Yeah, it was it was a morning show. It was in the DC area, and there was kind of a prankster type of morning show, and they were just doing all these stupid pranks, and it's just one of those things. They didn't know that, that one could possibly drink too much water, because everyone's always avoid chemicals. Well, H2O is a chemical. It's water. Right? So, literally water can kill you if you drink too much of it. But it can also kill you if you don't drink enough. So, really important to just find the middle ground. Drink at least 8-ounce glasses of water in a day will help keep you hydrated. And hydration is not just for the minimum amount is keeping you alive. But if you drink enough, you're going to have really nice glowing skin. And you're going to have lubrication for your joints and all of that stuff. And all of your other organs are going to function so much better. And you're going to sweat the right amount so you can actually stay cool on days when it's hot. Super important.
Very important.
So let's see. You have a question in here, and I can tie this into is drinking RO water better for you? And then you remineralizing.
Yeah, okay.
So do you want to talk about remineralizing water? How would you do that? Or just take a mineral supplement when you're drinking RO water?
You can either take a supplement, or you can add the trace minerals back into your water and drink them that way. I believe those are really the 2 options that you have. Or you can just drink the demineralized water, which, I don't know that there's any harm to that. I don't know that the trace minerals needed to be added back to them. We could Google and see what Google says.
Well, in my mind, I think for RO water, and if it's demineralized, right, it's all well and good if you're eating enough fruits and vegetables. because all the minerals that are like are being pulled out of the water would be also contained in your fruits and vegetables because they pull up those minerals to function as well. So in general, most of your minerals would come from fresh fruits and vegetables and things like that. However, if you're a person who doesn't eat any fruits or vegetables, then maybe if you are using RO water to drink, you might want to take a mineral supplement. That might be a good idea.
This says, Google says, you do not strictly need to remineralize RO water for health reasons, as you get a vast majority of your daily nutrients from food, like you just said. However, remineralization is highly recommended because it balances the water's pH, prevents a slightly flat or dead taste, which I don't really identify with. I really like the taste of RO water, but anyways, and stops the pure water from aggressively leaching minerals out of unprotected pipes or equipment.
Right. So if you're just ROing it into a glass,
Then
you're
it's
fine. But if you RO it into a metal container, know that that water is going to want, put it that way, to kind of pull the minerals off of something. Because nature loves the balance, and there's a reason why there's minerals in that water in the first place, because Mother Nature put it there. So it is just trying to balance itself back out.
That makes sense.
That's generally the reasoning for it. And so if you're going to remove the minerals, because you're really not meaning to remove the minerals, it's just in the process of removing all of the contaminants because of the molecular size, you would end up removing some minerals as well. Yeah. So there we go. I think we've beaten that mineralization on the head, that iron nail on the head. So what is Kangen water?
Kangen water.
Okay, Lauren, tell us about Kangen water.
Kangen water is water that has been filtered through this very specific machine. I really don't know too much about it. But supposedly there are a lot of benefits to drinking Kangen water or using it to clean with. So this machine was invented in Japan, I believe, and you can set the machine to produce water to any different pH you want. So some pHs are better for drinking, some are better for cleaning, so it's changing the water structure in this machine in order for you to use it for whatever given purpose you want.
So pH, little science lesson here, folks. pH basically stands for the percent of hydrogen in solution. So you have hydrogen molecules, H2O, but then you have the H part and then the 2O. And so normally regular plain old water, H2O, and that's all that's in there, is going to have a pH of 7, which is right in the middle. It's neutral. And if you have more OHs, it's going to be going one way on the pH scale. And if you have more just hydrogen hanging around and they're not hooked up to an oxygen molecule or so, then it becomes a pH of another. And so what they're doing is they're either taking out oxygen or adding in oxygen, likely, to end up making the pH change. That's all.
And so it's making it alkaline
or acidic.
Or ionized, essentially.
Yep.
And the machine can be quite expensive, but supposedly there are benefits to drinking or using it. Proponents claim it provides superior cellular hydration, acts as a powerful antioxidant to reduce oxidative stress, and balance the body's pH level and promote overall wellness and better digestion, supposedly. I've never...
Right, exactly. And that's, I want to see the scientific claims on that because it very well might be the people that are making the machine are also coming up with the listed health benefits.
Yeah.
And because water is so very loosely regulated, actually tap water is highly more regulated than any other kind of water in any bottle at all. So your tap water has higher, stricter regulations. So if you're just buying bottles of inexpensive, like those cases of bottled water that they sell at a gas station, I don't know if that's necessarily better or worse for you than just drinking out of the tap at the gas station.
Also, in addition to the fact that none of that water has been tested properly, it's also been leaching microplastics into that water for who knows how long. So
yes, very
that's
bad.
Another thing we haven't talked about yet, or well, really the only other thing we haven't talked about yet is microplastics.
Yeah, and that's a thing that a lot of people are beginning to be concerned about. If you have your water sitting in a plastic bottle, and it's like, when I was a kid, we didn't have plastic water bottles. Like all of a sudden it was like tap water is bad, and then the next thing you know, we've got bottled water everywhere. Whereas, like, I think it was mostly the plastics industry that needed to create something, and then someone else was like, hey, we could put water in that, and then people get out bottled water, and then the next thing you know, everyone's convinced that all water coming out of a tap is bad, and yes, I need to buy bottled water. You know what? It's super important. Those people in Flint, Michigan absolutely need the bottled water right now, for sure. Shame on the municipality that ever allowed those lead pipes and well, in actuality, lead pipes are fine if the pH is correct. The issue was they were being cheap on how they were adjusting their water, which led to the lead leaching in. If your pH is correct, you run it through the lead and it doesn't leach. The issue was the actual how they were adjusting the water was incorrect. They were cutting corners because there was a component that they needed to do in there to make sure that the water was the correct pH coming out, so it would not be too acidic and pull the lead off. And if any listeners are out there who want to add to this discussion, please feel free to reach out and correct me if I am incorrect on any of those facts. But I do recall it wasn't really the lead pipes that did it. It was actually the nature of the water that was going through it. And that was purely just someone not doing their job right. And then it led to, millions and millions of dollars and just really horrible consequences. Lead paint. My oldest daughter actually ended up having a high lead because we were living in an apartment that had lead paint in the windows. And then they had really, really old carpet, and she was crawling on the old carpet. I didn't know. I knew, yes, make sure there were no lead chips around for sure. I knew that, right? Don't let her chew on the windowsill, okay? But what I didn't know, and maybe listeners out there like you don't know, don't vacuum that stuff up, because what you do is you end up like grinding it and putting it in the air, and then it goes and spews everywhere. So I was always wondering, when I walked across this carpet, my feet would be black. Well, that's how much lead was in the damn carpet. Well, it led to, like, us, by that time when it was discovered, we had already moved out of the apartment and we didn't live there anymore or anything like that. There was no real detrimental effects to it. It was caught very early. So, no, thankfully, but still, like,
this was
stuff that you don't even realize. Huh?
This was BL before Lauren.
Yes, it's before you.
Thank God.
It was an elevated level, but not like, oh my God, elevated. But they take the test at 9 months old, and they do that because they want to make sure that they check that so that they can correct it before it gets, worse. Right. And so, there's more than just water that can be a problem. The environment writ large can be pretty bad. Yeah. Even a carpet where your kid is crawling on.
Yeah, or even the walls themselves if they have mold in them.
Yeah, so, as we have, anyone who wants to talk about that or learn about that, we have another mycotoxin episode we talk all about how, the location where you live, if there's mold damage, what it can do to your body, and then how to move forward after you discover you have that issue.
And you can witness partially what was happening to my body in real time, because my face in that episode looks totally messed up because of all the eczema that I have caused by the mold from my apartment. So, if you want to see my face not looking good, go and check that.
Very red. Yeah, it's definitely very red and inflamed.
It's looking much better now.
It is looking much better. Look at
water and all pretty much the worst patch of eczema that I had.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
Completely gone here. I have the ones on my elbows have been flaring up a little bit, and I'm not exactly sure why, but we're getting off topic anyway.
It's the heat and stress and all that. But for plastic water bottles, again, that's something that we can avoid. Here's another thing about plastic water bottles, though. It's like, okay, you've got a fresh water bottle, you open it, you drink out of it, okay. You might get some microplastics, that's not good. And whatever else is in that water. However, do not, and I mean do not, take and drink out of that water bottle, and then let's say, it ends up in your car somewhere, only half consumed. I knew someone who ended up in the hospital for a week because they were driving along, they were a salesperson, they spent a lot of time in their car, they were thirsty, and they were in a hurry, so they just there was that water bottle that's under the seat of his car or whatever that had been hanging around for a week or two that he had already half consumed. He drank that. Well, if you put that water bottle in your mouth, stuff that's in your mouth goes back into that water bottle. And so it was in there in a nice warm car in a perfect environment to multiply. And so it made him quite sick because of the fact that it was basically now a cesspool of yuckiness in a water bottle. So do not drink old, stale water. Dump it out. Go fill it up again if you need to.
Well, clean it first, hopefully. And then
if it's a plastic water bottle and you're like, let's say you're somewhere where it's like, okay, you need to get some water and you need a vessel. Okay, you can fill it up and drink that water quickly and you're okay. But it's best to really clean your water bottles and all of that. It's an important thing. But microplastics are not just in water and coming out of water bottles. They say the worst, actually tea drinkers.
Oh, yeah, the tea bag itself.
Tea bags, yeah. So make your tea just in like loose leaf and put it in a little metal tea thing and make your tea that way.
Or
that's going to help you avoid that.
If you only have bags, you can take it out of the bag and then strain the tea after you steep it. Like strain it into your cup.
Yeah, exactly. You can absolutely do that. You can literally just open the thing into then. Yep, exactly. So that's another thing to be, and actually probably from studies that they have done where the highest amount of microplastics in the body consumed come from people that drink a lot of tea.
Or coffee.
And it's also in vegetables and things of that nature.
To-go coffee cups, too, are also a really high proponent of microplastics because that paper cup is lined with plastic. So that way the hot beverage does not, completely dissolve the cup and then just fall out everywhere. And every second that hot beverage is in that cup, it is leaching microplastics into your beverage.
Yes. So I think the moral of the story is that on top of like filtration, things like that, that's a good idea.
Just drink
But if you need a portable source for a beverage of some kind, water or coffee or tea or whatever, is a reusable
metal water bottle.
Or even ceramic. You can do that too, although those are harder to be a bottle.
Yeah.
But I mean, even a canning jar with a lid is easy to do, and fairly inexpensive.
Yes.
And if it's the new
accessory, you can, like the Stanley Cup is the newest thing that everyone has. Like everyone has either a Stanley Cup or a Yeti cup. You gotta have one, like you can get them in all different colors to match your outfit if you want to. Or you can just have, like your one that you always use. Yeah. I mean,
and often there are people giving them out now. I mean, I have so many metal water bottles. I have a lot of plastic ones, but I've recycled those. But the metal ones, they're fairly inexpensive too. They're a couple of bucks that you can buy a smaller one. Maybe it's not an insulated one. The insulated ones tend to be a little bit more, but they're coming down in price unless you're getting the Yeti, which is really expensive. But I would say, well, if you want to hold it like
I feel like the Yetis have come down in price a bit also.
Yeah, maybe they're not like $30 anymore for a small, like 12 ounce.
It's like $30 for like the big cup.
To the big ones. Okay. Yeah. And another place for people to look is actually at a thrift store. Like the Salvation Army or the Goodwill, because there's a lot of people like myself. I go to conferences, and half the time that's one of the things that's in there is a water bottle, a metal water bottle. And so a lot of people will end up with a lot of them, and so people donate them because they're like, "What do I do? My cabinets are full, and I have like 10 metal water bottles. You don't need that many. You really." One? And so, no, that's another place to check. Or again, a canning jar, and then if you're crafty, you can like sew up a little insulator around it, a little pocket thing for it, or even knit something to go around it. So lots of ways you can make your emotional support water bottle snazzy.
Exactly. And you'll always be hydrated everywhere you go.
Absolutely. All right.
And now it's time for a kitchen battle.
Yes, it is time for a kitchen battle. We'll see you in the kitchen.
See you in the kitchen.
Welcome back to the kitchen. This week's challenge is peaches, and Lauren gave me a real peachy recipe. It is grilled peaches and gorgonzola pizza. And so it actually looks pretty good. Doesn't have any kind of tomato sauce on it or anything. So I would say it's more like a flatbread enhanced with a cheese and fruit. But let's give it a try.
So the first step to make this recipe is to pit the peaches. You want to cut them in half and remove the pits. You don't need to peel them. Add a little bit of salt in there, a little bit of pepper. You want to pre-grill or preheat your grill. I actually have a cast iron grill pan that I use on my stove, so that works, but you could also certainly use an outside one. I did make the mistake of not actually oiling it first, so the peaches did stick a bit, but in general, that worked really well. You want to make sure it's hot enough so you get that really pretty grill marks. You want to sear them on the one side, then you're going to flip them over and sear them on the other side. The next step is to make the dough. I like to weigh my flour rather than using a measuring cup because you get more consistent results. When you live in a place like I do that is very humid in the summertime, it is going to absorb the moisture from the air, and so it's better to weigh it. So weighing all the ingredients, putting them into the bowl, and then after that I mixed it up just to come together and then allowed it to rest. And then the next step is to mix it to a more consistent ball. Did that with my KitchenAid, although I would have doubled the recipe if I make this again because that dough amount was so small. But then I put it out onto the surface and I kneaded it. And then after kneading it, I did allow that to rest. And then I went along and I formed my dough into kind of the pizza shape. This dough was very nice to work with. Added on the cheese, the olive oil, and the other ingredients and the peaches. And then I put that into the oven. After it was cooked, I pulled it out and served it. Although I certainly am going to give you a little bit of something that you can do, but I would say it was a good recipe, and overall, you should certainly give it a try.
I think it needs something, but I'm not sure what. However, what I would probably do is I have a really nice onion jam, and I think because it needs more sweetness than the peaches are offering.
And I think that sweetness will really help balance this out. So I hope you do give it a try. And good job, Lauren.
Hi guys, welcome back to my kitchen. Today I'm going to be making my mom's blueberry peach crisp with ginger cornmeal crumb. So let's get started. First, I started by peeling and pitting my peaches. To peel my peaches, I used boiling water and an ice bath. This helps the skins to come off super easy as long as they are properly ripened. After my peaches were pitted and peeled, I proceeded to slice them thinly, and then I mixed the filling in a bowl, which was the blueberries, ginger, cinnamon, cloves, allspice, sugar, cornstarch, and a little bit of salt. And then I placed this into a buttered baking dish. And then I proceeded to make the cornmeal crumb topping, and I just pulsed this all together in a food processor or blender because that makes it super easy. And then I put it on top of the filling and then stuck it in the oven at 350 for about 45 to 50 minutes. And then once it came out, I let it cool down to about room temperature, and then it was ready to be enjoyed. I loved this recipe that my mom made because it is not your typical crisp recipe. I think when we think crisp, it's usually just oatmeal topping, whereas this one has cornmeal in it, and I think that's a really fun take on it. And corn is also in season in the summer, so you're just adding another fun seasonal element that isn't usually in there, and I thought it was really fun. So thanks for sharing this recipe, Mom. I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys give it a try and let us know whose recipe you thought was better this week.
Bye. Happy cooking.
Well, this episode is fully baked. Remember, don't stress over perfection.
Cooking in life can be messy, but that's where the magic happens. Inspiration can come from even the worst of kitchen mess-ups.
Yeah, like how the chocolate chip cookie was born.
And the potato chip. Sometimes you gotta get messy to get clean.
Thanks for joining us in the kitchen. Subscribe so you don't miss the next food fight episode.
You can follow us on Instagram at 2 Cooks Podcast. That's the number 2 Cooks Podcast. And share your favorite food recipes or try any of our delicious recipes. This is Too Many Cooks in the Kitchen, where better food and better health always start in the kitchen. And Mom, don't forget to check the stove. That might be how dinner got burned.
Thanks for listening. See you next time. Gotta run and check that stove.
Bye. Happy cooking.
Bye.